Yeah, what's up?
Yo, the Ganyu Vader just went live. Should I pull?
If you're a whale, that sucks, dude. Everybody's got max constellations on all these characters. Are you free to play?
Duh.
All right, man. Well, let's go over it. Let's jump into it. We'll go over constellation stuff. Okay. So if you've been playing this game since launch, the thing that you got to know about this banner is that if you're a whale and you've pulled for every single 5-star character so far, this banner is absolutely dog shit for you because you have probably C5, C4, maybe even C6, all of these characters. If you're like me and you have C75 Xiangling, C27 Zheng Ku, and C34 Noelle. Essentially, it's really, really bad for whales. Whales are like, damn, bro, I want to pull for the waifu, but everything else on my pulls is dog shit. So if you don't get in the first rotation, you gotta go all the way up to like $400 for the character. You're like, fuck. So I think what they're gonna do, because MiHoYo in good fashion is gonna be like, you know what, we just want to rub salt in the wound. They're gonna make it so that every single player cannot get her on the first 5-star. But on the second one, though, if there was ever a time to do it. Anyways, for free-to-play players, the people that matter about this banner, let's go ahead and go over these characters' constellations because surprisingly, on my Asia account, these are the 3 characters I've built up for 4 stars. So let's go over first off the Xiangling Monster Cat. Now, this character overall is an amazing powerhouse damage unit because of one thing and one thing only, and it's because the Crescent Pike exists. It's not that so much that Xiangling is a badass motherfucker that is the best character in the game, it's that the Crescent Pike is an actual weapon that you can use on her, which is awesome. So that's why she's good. Anyways, the Guoba Bear on her, awesome, does big damage, and she ascends with Elemental Mastery. Going into her constellations for C1, you lower Pyro Resistance, which is amazing. If you've never tried out a character with Viridescent Viriner to pair with another character, that's why you know that anytime you lower the lower elemental resistances, that's awesome. The C2 on her gives you that big PP 75% attack as AoE pyro damage if you hit with a normal attack sequence on the last attack. So unfortunately, what sucks with Xiangling is what I like doing on her is doing a charge attack on my last attack to get repositioned on the other side. What I'll have to do if I go for C2 though, if I want to improve my damage, is I go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then use a last hit here. The comparison on overall damage between the 2 abilities here, you can see that it will be a 121 plus 75%. So at level 8 talents, you're actually getting less damage than the charge attack tail. So the C2 overall is kind of worthless as far as like an overall damaging mechanic because you still get more out of a charge attack, and when you get closer to talent level 9 and 10, I think the gap closes even further as far as if you get more out of it or not, which kind of sucks. But C2 Xiangling, of course, they'll get an implode status on the enemies, and an explosion will occur after the duration ends. So it's not even, it's like you can't like time it perfectly. It's like it'll land on them and they'll get an explosion on them. So with the overall damage increase there, it's not the best, but what are you gonna do? All right, for C4 for Xiangling, Pyronado's duration is increased by 40%. This is super big for all versions of Xiangling, whether it be new, whether they be a what's it called, a support Xiangling or a main DPS Xiangling, it doesn't matter. These are both very, very good for her. And finally, the last one, which is going to be the C6, which is going to increase pyro damage for all characters that are in your team. So this is a very, very good ability in general. Having 50% increased pyro damage for yourself as well as all party members, very, very strong, especially while the Pyronado is active when you have an increased duration. The increased duration of the Pyronado, by the way, if it's increasing by 40%, just increases the duration to 14 seconds, which is great. 14-second Pyronado on a 20-second cooldown, perfect, really good. So is Xiangling worth summoning for constellations? Probably not. Because like you probably don't need them, but they are good. I would not summon on this banner for free to play specifically for Xiangling because she doesn't really need constellations to do well. It just helps her kit get boosted and more damage. You don't really feel any real power increase except for the duration of Pyronado increase so that you can get more reactions, potentially another 2 hits in there, etc. So it's not really necessary for you to pull for constellations for her because you don't really feel the massive power spike when you get them. All right, next up we got the Danish Xinchu. And Xinchu, of course, is one of the best supporting units in the entire game, providing that massive vaporize hits and, of course, his ultimate ability that gets you the big PP damage. Xinchu is, of course, one of the characters that a lot of people say needs constellations to do very, very well. But in my experience, I feel like C1 Gen 2 does just fine. The C0 on him is totally fine, but the C1 increases the amount of rain swords that you get, which basically just increases the amount of healing and damage reduction that you get overall from his overall kit. And that makes it so that you have a longer duration on your damage reduction, which is pretty cool. And the actual healing that you're getting per rain sword increases a little bit as well. But you're only getting about 6% extra healing off your max HP based on how much healing you get for his overall kit. So it's not like you get a massive amount of a C1, so that's kind of whatever. The C2 for Xinqiu is going to extend the duration of the rain cutter by 3 seconds, which is really, really freaking good. It's also going to decrease hydro resistance of enemies hit by rain sword by 15% for 4 seconds. Now, the C2 is probably his biggest constellation, in my opinion, if you're looking for the big constellations to improve your damage. Minus 15% on the on any enemy is a very powerful amount of hydro resist reduction, and increasing duration by 3 seconds is what you're going to really feel the power of Xinqiu, because that means you're going to have an 18-second uptime on his overall ultimate versus a 15-second time uptime. And that means that you can almost have a near 100% uptime on your ultimate in the 2-second gap that's going to take you to recast the ultimate if you're going to be building with a sacrificial sword and a lot of energy recharge. So a lot of people, this is the preferred method of playing Xinqiu, and this is why Xinqiu at Constellation 2 is a very powerful force in general. For the C4 for Xinqiu, we got, of course, throughout the duration of Guhua Rain Cutter, the damage dealt by the fatal rain screen is increased by 50%. So that means is if you do have your Xinqiu out and you're like, yo, I'm gonna pop my ulti, bam, and then you want to drop an E on someone's face, that E is now gonna increase by 50% increased damage. So if you wanted to pop this out, then switch over to a character like Benny, switch over and then do this and get like your Vaporize up, whatever, and then switch back to Xinqiu, you go bam! Or have a Vaporize up prior to popping your ulti, you can get a massive surge in damage and give yourself an overall kit boost in general when pairing with characters like Xiangling or Bennett or whoever you want to go with that you're going to be using as a 4-star character for your main DPS, all that crap. So that is a huge surge damage ability here for Constellation 4. I feel like this is a great constellation to have. But again, 50% damage increase on the E is really nice, especially if you have a sac sword on your Xinqiu. So I feel like if you're going to be going for 2 different rotations on this to get multiple copies of a sacrificial sword at some point, this is a great constellation. Then going into C6, we're going to have activating 2 Guhua Rain Cutter swords, of course, increases the damage of the 3rd. So what this means is that if you're doing damage with your Xinqiu, you get extra energy recharge when each rain sword hits its opponents, which is also bitchin'. So the more times that you attack with Xinqiu, the more times that you get extra energy recharge on him, which means you get more energy back, which means you can get your ultimate up multiple times. Is his C6 good? Fuck yes. The reason it's so good is because Xinqiu, by the way, if you do not want to build with a sacrificial sword, will have a massive amount of energy recharge at that point. And the reason that's so good is because now you can build with weapons like Harbinger of the Dawn. Harbinger of the Dawn, if you haven't seen it before, is a weapon that increases your overall critical damage by 42% and gives you 28% crit rate when using it. And this allows you to get extra damage on your Vaporizes, gives you big damage, and it's a supremely good weapon for Albedo. Unfortunately, it does have a very low amount of base attack, but when you're comparing it with the Sacrificial Sword, it's actually kind of interesting. So if we go over to a Harbinger of the Dawn here, you'll notice it starts at a 39 base attack value, whereas the Sacrificial Sword only starts at 41. So the difference in overall base attack at max attack on the Sacrificial Sword is about 450 on the max attack on a Sacrificial Sword for a base attack there. And I think the max attack on a Harbinger of the Dawn goes up to about 375, 390, somewhere in there. And it's actually not that big of a difference as you would think. Like if it was like one of the weapons that had a much higher amount of base attack, like say the Blacklift Longsword, when it was at a very high base attack amount, that'd be very different. But the Sacrificial Sword actually has the lowest base attack of any 4-star weapon in the game. So you're actually, between the base attack values, you're actually going to see a much bigger damage increase on the Harbinger of the Dawn versus the Sacrificial Sword. The big difference on the Sacrificial Sword, though, of course, is the proc that you have on the Sacrificial Sword. And the proc on the Sacrificial Sword allows you to get, every time you use an E, to have a 40% chance to get reset on the cooldown. It allows you multiple E's in your rotation, which allows you to get your ultimate up extremely quickly. So if you're using Xinqiu, it really depends on the amount of overall energy recharge that you're going to be having on your Xinqiu, if you're going to need the sacrificial sword or not, or if you can go with a different weapon. Now, prior to C6, I would say that a lot of people can prefer using the sacrificial sword in general for a Xinqiu, because you can actually spam your ultimate on a nice rotation, give yourself lots of damage. Unfortunately, I didn't get a sacrificial sword so very late in the game, and I didn't have enough weapon crystals to really focus on that for my Xinqiu, so I had to actually focus on a Harbinger of the Dawn in order to actually have a weapon for him that would work. But for overall constellations, what's really interesting, this whole constellation right here enables the use of other weapons and allows you to use other weapons to do larger damage on your Xinqiu so that you can have a better rotation. This is one of the things I find to be the most valuable for a character like him, because switching off a sacrificial sword to switch to other weapons so you can have your ultimate up to spam it more consistently is a very powerful thing. And the last one that we got to go over is Noelle, the Yeet Master 9000. All right, so Noelle is one of those characters that a lot of people are like, yay, nay, yay, nay, yay, nay. And then like, I think she was voted for most underrated character of 2020. So a lot of people don't like her. A lot of people do like her. But let's go ahead and go over her so you guys can understand her a little bit better. Okay, so Noelle, the Constellation 1 has been her big coveted thing where she actually is she needs her Constellation 1 to be a good healer. And the answer to that is, well, if you have a 50% bump in healing, yeah, that's really good. So C1 is incredibly good. Essentially what the C1 boils down to is if you have your E up or your sweeping time, while sweeping time and breastplate are both in effect, you actually get your ultimate up. So again, what's really sucky about her is you need to have your E and your Q up to get yourself increased healing percentage. But if you just have your E up, this means that you're still having just a 55% healing chance. So if you're running around and using Noelle as a healer and you only have your E up, it does not give you a 100% chance to heal. It only gives you a 100% chance to heal if you have your ultimate up at the same time as your E. Got it? It's not just the E, it's the ultimate up and the E up. Okay, second one. Decreases the stamina consumption of Noelle's charge attack by 20%, increases her charge attack damage by 15%. What that allows you to do is while you're in your E with your other things, you can go Oda, and get lots of heals in. So that's still a really cool way of using her. But when you're looking at Noelle's overall constellations and damage and etc., and what you would really get out of it, the healing, of course, is based on this. Normal and charge attacks can proc the heal, so you don't have to worry about that. The thing is, charge attacks will actually hit faster, so it's better to use a charge attack to get your auto heals in. So that's a great way to go for her in order to get damage. Nice damage increase and good healing. All right, for her next constellation for C4, we're gonna go into when breastplate duration expires or destroyed, it will do 400% attack as geo damage surrounding opponents. Now this is a massive constellation for Noelle's increase in damage. So I really like her C4. The reason I like her C4 is because a lot of people, when they're building Noelle, end up going with a Geo Goblet on their Noelle. I personally have one as well, and Geo damage on your Goblet is a very strong way to go when you're building for Noelle in any kind of healing fashion. I currently build on her as a Gladiator set. I could be going through a Tracing Bolide set, which might be a better way to go in general, but I have a Gladiator set because I ended up getting a healing bonus piece for Gladiator, getting all the defense pieces I wanted, so this is just the way I wanted to go with her because I had the pieces specifically laid out for her and just said, fuck it. It kind of worked out that way. But this one rolled defense on here, and they're like, you know what? That works fine. So in general, I found that this was the way I wanted to go for my Noelle because it was, you know, available, and this is not like a whale account where I want to farm for artifacts for a Noelle. But I do find that the Constellation 4 will provide a huge amount of damage because 400% of your overall attack, especially if you're building open like Wifeline where you're out, and when the shield breaks consistently, does a large amount of damage. So I do find that to be a very, very cool constellation. On my main account, I don't really play Noelle, but I can say while playing Noelle here, this would be a really cool constellation to have because the amount of times that breastplate gets broken is kind of, you know. And one of the things I find is a QL change is once you see a big surge in geo damage on the enemy field, you'll notice that that's the time to switch off of your Noelle, which will give you a visual cue to notice more when to switch off of her to switch to a different character in your team. And that's more of the thing that I would like, a bigger visual cue, because I've been doing a lot of different things. And if there's like 15 enemies blocking your screen, this is a really good visual cue to say, okay, it's time to switch off. The last constellation, of course, is the most coveted constellation for Noelle's increase in damage, and sweeping time increases her attack by an additional 50% of her defense, which means that if you're going to be going into the constellations for Noelle, right now she has a 56% defense bonus at level 6, so this is basically a double damage increase from defense as far as an increase goes. So at talent level 6 is pretty much where most people are going to end their talent tree on Noelle because they don't want to go too far into her talent tree because of who she shares talents with. She is probably going to get a double attack bonus at that point. Very, very few players, in my opinion, are going to be going into the talent tree for her because of her overall constellations. Additionally, every opponent defeated during the skill increasing the duration by 1 second up to 10 seconds, which also means that if you're doing an auto build with Noelle and doing lots of damage during that duration, you actually increase the duration to about 25 seconds at maximum if you're killing a lot of different enemies in the mix. But since the cooldown is already 15 seconds, one of the biggest problems with Noelle, and this is the reason that this is actually so good, is because Noelle actually has extremely horrible energy recharge. And because she has such horrible energy recharge, this is actually a really nice thing to have up on an extended duration, because being able to use your auto build over and over again is a huge thing, because you're probably not going to have the energy up to use your next ability while it's out. Okay, and the last thing we're going to go over is the weapon banner real quick. This thing's awesome for Ganyu. This thing is awesome for Noelle. Everyone else, this is an amazing weapon. Yes, it's bitchin'. Is it good on this character? Yes, it's good on this character. Is this weapon good? It's really good on Ganyu for charge attacks, right? It's really good on Amber, because so I want to pull my free-to-play account, you know what I'm saying? I definitely want to pull my free-to-play account so I can bitch like slay out with Amber. But as far as this weapon banner goes, if you're not be pulling for Ganyu, is the ammo spell good? It's okay. I use it on my official. It's pretty good on my official. It's not better than Skyward Harp. Skyward Harp shits all over it. It's an amazing weapon in comparison, but it's not nowhere near as close as damage on the Skyward Harp. For Child, probably not the best weapon either, so if you're looking for something for that, not the best. But for Amber and Ganyu, sure, it's great. And if you're looking at the Skyward Pride in general, really good on most characters in the game, and I really want that weapon for my Beidou. So I'm more excited right now about the weapon banner for these 5-star weapons. As far as the weapons on the 4-star banner, these 4-star Sacrificial Sword is insanely good for Xinqiu, as well as a lot of characters in the game. Dragon's Bane, of course, is great for support on Zhengling, and every other weapon is pretty much dog shit. Favonius Warbow might be good, but, you know, if you don't have Stringless for Venti or some shit like that. All right, guys. Well, my name's Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to check us live, of course, we're live every single day. Twitch.tv/Sekapoko. We're always there. So if you want to check us out, say, hey, what's up? Seka, how you doing? Your hair looks purple. I like it. So thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Twitch chat, saying bye to you, and you guys have a great rest of your day.